Hi, I'm Marie Elizabeth Molly, and this is Relationship Alchemy. Today we're going to be talking about how upper limits affect you in your relationships. The idea of upper limits was popularized by Hendricks in his book, The Big Leap. And they are essentially the upper limit, the highest level of good and success and joy and happiness that your nervous system allows you to have in your life. Our upper limits get set up when we're very small. So when we're little and we're in our families and in our culture, class, religion, education, all of these environments set up our expectations for the amount of good that we can hold and the amount of good that we feel comfortable with. And these get coded, encoded into our nervous system. And so any time that we go past how much love we think we deserve, how much money we feel we are allowed to have or deserve to have, how physically fit we get to be, any of the places where upper limits come into play, when we go past our upper limits, we will tend to sabotage and bring ourselves back down to the place where our brains feel comfortable, even if we don't like it. So upper limits don't really have much to do with our desires. They have more to do with what's been encoded in our system as normal and what we are allowed. So in order to have more in your life, in order to have more love, in order to have a better relationship, in order to be wealthier than your family was initially, in order to break through and have more physical fitness or strength or more mental health than the people around you, shift to a different class, etc. All of that is conditioned on our upper limits. And so in order to have more, we need to learn how to expand them. So I'm going to start with a few concepts from Hendricks' book, which is the beliefs that tend to set up the upper limits that we have. And the first belief is that we're fundamentally flawed. Most of us, because we grew up in a punitive culture, grow up with the idea that something's wrong with us and we deserve to be punished. So this idea that we're fundamentally flawed works its way into our relationships in ideas like, it's too good to be true. If they saw the real me, they wouldn't love me like this. This feeling like you have a terrible secret and you can't reveal it, or that you have to show up perfect in your relationship to deserve love. It sets up all kinds of people-pleasing and overwork and poor boundaries because we're trying to be the person that we think other people require that we be in order for us to deserve love. The second belief is actually a fear of being disloyal and leaving behind the people you love. We can have a contract that we unconsciously set up when we were kids to be like our parents, to stay in connection with them, to suffer the same things they suffer, to family above all else. These kinds of beliefs that when we grow up, and if we want to grow out of certain situations that no longer serve us, we might come up against this fear of being disloyal and this fear of leaving behind people who aren't growing in the way that we're growing. The third is a fear of either being a burden as we get more successful or being burdened by our success. More money, more problems. That's a belief that gets thrown around a lot. So this idea that we keep ourselves small because we don't want to have bigger problems or we don't want to be a burden to somebody in some way. That piece of being a burden to somebody also shows up in our relationships in an inability to ask for support or help because we don't want to be a burden to our partner. So we don't ask for help when we need it, when we actually could use it. And the last category that tends to set up our beliefs is a fear of outshining others, whether that's outshining our parents, outshining our siblings. So some of us will have a tendency to hold ourselves back because we don't want people we love to feel bad because we're outshining them. And that will set up situations in our relationships where we hold ourselves back and we don't go for what we want because we're afraid somebody else will feel sad or feel less than because they haven't been as successful as us or gone as far as we have. So in order to expand our upper limits, the first thing is to notice when you're hitting one. This is key. And the ways you can notice it, especially in relationships, is when you hear yourself thinking, oh, this is too good to be true. Or, oh, this is all well and good, but I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Or, if they knew the real me, like I said before. Any places where you are evaluating your circumstance in a fearful way, as if you're going to lose it, or as if it's not real or true. That's a sign that you're hitting an upper limit. So the thing to do there is to shift your thinking to appreciation. Immediately think about something you appreciate about the love you have with your partner or partners. Appreciate something about a way that you've shown up recently that was effective, something you're proud of in yourself, something you appreciate about the other person or the other people. In this way, turning your mind deliberately to appreciation and gratitude begins to expand your ability to stay having this wonderful thing that you have that's triggering your upper limit problem. Another way that you'll tend to see upper limits happen or come into play, that you can catch it, is everything's going along great, and then you pick a fight over nothing. Like some dumb shit. That's a sign that you hit an upper limit. Your subconscious is uncomfortable with how great everything is going, so you picked a fight to bring yourself down. It's not something to beat yourself up over, but it is something to notice. And in that moment, choose to appreciate something about the relationship. Shift your mind, shift your thinking. Then the second piece of setting it aside, as it were, is to ask yourself, if I didn't have an upper limit around this, like if I didn't have a limit to how much good I think I can have, what would I actually want here? What would feel good to me? Engage your creativity. How would I want to show up? If I weren't afraid that this were too good to be true, which then makes you hold back, which then makes you second guess, which then makes you pick a fight. All the things that come into play when you hold that limiting belief, oh, it's too good to be true, it's going to blow up eventually, you will start to filter everything that happens through the lens of, when is it going to blow up? When is it going to blow up? When is it going to blow up? And guess what? Doing that will make it blow up. It's not that it was going to blow up anyway. It's that your limiting belief caused you to look at every single thing through that limiting filter, expecting things to fall apart or blow up, which then sets you up to take the actions that cause the blow up. This is how we are at choice. This is how powerful we are to effect exactly what we expect in our relationships. So if you notice yourself having this upper limit dialogue in your head, bumping up against, oh my God, I don't know if I can hold this, if I can have this. It's so good. The first is to catch that that's happening, immediately shift to appreciating something specific or finding gratitude for something specific. And then step two is ask yourself, if I didn't have this upper limit, what would I want here? How would I show up here? What would I say? What would I do? What is the next action that would feel right? In this way, you start expanding your capacity to have more love, more wealth, more goodness, more joy in your life. Why? Because you're actually taking the actions that facilitate that. Why? Because you're asking yourself the question, if this upper limit weren't here, what would I do? If I weren't being run by my fear, what would I do? Sometimes this can be hard to figure out on your own at first. It can help to have someone reflecting back to you when you're hitting an upper limit. So if you're in a relationship, bring this idea to your partner, talk about it. Invite each other to bring that into the inquiry. An upper limit can show up in so many ways. For me, it recently showed up in staying at a hotel that was nicer than I usually stay in. And my first day there, I felt sort of uncomfortable and jangly. And I realized, oh, it's because I don't usually allow myself a hotel this nice. I spend my money on other things. I'm more likely to spend my money on a nice meal than on a hotel room. When I'm on the road, it's actually super nice to be at a hotel that has functional internet and that has a nice background in the room that looks nice when I'm on screen. So I had to come around to my own permission to actually stay at the nicer place and feel great about giving that to myself, to my business, to my partner if he's with me. That's an example. Another example of a way that upper limit can show up is some clients of mine have recently been buying a house. And it was a nicer house than they've ever considered having before. So there was this underlying fear of, is this going to change how people perceive me on the part of one of the partners in the couple? There was a fear about, how are people going to perceive us now if we have this nicer house? And what will my family think? Because the success and wealth that this couple has attained, it surpasses what this partner's family of origin ever had. So there's a fear of outshining, a fear of leaving behind people they love, friends, family members. All of that got triggered by the choice to move into a house that actually feels better to them because they've grown out of the small rental with all sorts of issues in it, and it was time. And that catalyzed a whole deeper layer of upper limit conversations to the surface. So I hope this is helpful and clear to you what they are. And this is something I'm actually very good at seeing. So if this is something you want to learn more about, reach out. Take my assessment, my relationship alchemy assessment. It's in the show notes. There's one for single people, one for partnered people. And after you take that, you're welcome to schedule a call with me and we can talk about what it might look like to work together. My relationship alchemy program, my year-long program, is beginning in May. And I'm enrolling for that. That is open to women. And in that, we are going to do all kinds of upper limit expansion so that the women who participate can hold more good, can have the relationships they want to have, can have more success in the world, can feel great in their bodies. They can feel their permission to take the time for their self-care. For many of us, there's such a struggle to take time for self-care. Why? Because we have an upper limit around what we deserve and how much we are allowed to have ease and joy and pleasure in our lives because we've been taught to cater to everybody else, for example. I'm Marie Elizabeth Molly, and I help people have more of what they want in their relationships and their lives by showing up powerful, clear, potent, real. Until next time, remember, a great relationship starts with you.